Hi, Bethel. We are excited to bring to you tonight a new series that we are calling Life Conversations. Every week, we're going to sit down with a different member of the church and just have an informal conversation about life and the journey God has brought us on and the things that God has taught us. The purpose of this is twofold. One, we want to stay connected with each other during this time. It's difficult too, but we want to get to know, and this is a great opportunity to sit down one on one and do an interview and learn about each other a little bit more. But most importantly, we want to give God glory. And as we witness and we tell about what God has done in our life, the things God has brought us through, and the lessons that we've learned, we are giving glory to God. And so these will be an exciting series that we're starting. Every Thursday at 7 o'clock, we're going to post a new interview. And tonight, actually, I get to be the first one who's interviewed. So I hope that you can stay with us as we start this new series called Life Conversations.
Well, tonight we're here with Pastor Aaron. Glad everybody could join us here this evening. We're just going to have a conversation and talk about getting to know each other and how it relates to us and how it relates to God.
All right.
So, Pastor Aaron, it's great to be here with you tonight.
We're glad to be here.
Glad that you're with us.
Cool. Thanks for having me. Glad to do this.
Good. We're just here to talk. You know, I'd like to get. I personally would really like to get to know you a lot better. You know, you haven't been here for very long, you know, and we haven't had a lot of chance now with everything that's going on to have a lot of time to do much fellowship or get to know each other. I was looking forward to that less than 4 hour experience at your house. That
That's right. We were supposed to have the housewarming party, have everyone over, and we told them it was 3 hours, but you can't stay the full 3 hours.
Exactly.
We're going to kick them out. And we were warned of a couple people who would stay the whole time. I don't know who they were, but we'll see. But we do feel bad. You know, we had 3 Sundays at Bethel, and then it was kind of gone. And so I know kind of missing people that I don't fully know yet and everything. So not the start I would choose, but you know, God's in control all the time. I mean, so we know there's a purpose in their plan, and you know, it gives an opportunity to do some different things, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
well,
yeah.
But because of this very situation, here we are tonight.
Absolutely.
You know, this is we're hoping will be a really good time for us to get to know each other on a one-on-one personal level, but also to allow our church family and others to maybe get to know you a little better as well. Because we are certainly happy to have you and your family with us here at Bethel. And I hope that you all are having as good a time as we are having you here.
Yeah, we really are. My wife's glad to be in West Virginia. She says Ohio is too flat. It's flat like a pancake, she said. So there's hills in West Virginia. So we live in the very hilly. She's very pleased to be in West Virginia. So
yeah, having grown up in West Virginia all my life, you know, I've been here and been in the hills all my life. You know, I've certainly been in a high and a little farther west, but not very far until after my wife and I got married, and we went out to visit some friends of hers in Illinois. And the farther we went west, it's like, holy cow! I kept looking over the hillside, looking at the horizon, waiting for a tornado to show up, and it's like, wow! I can't believe how different it is not having those hills.
Yeah, you hit Indiana. We went out to Indianapolis, ran a marathon out there this November, and we were driving out to Indiana, and it is just flat. I mean, my wife says, God took an iron and just ironed the whole state out. And she told me, said, we are never, ever, ever called to pastor a church in Indiana. Just so you know, I'm getting this. I don't know if it works that way, but all right. So, but yeah, it's very, very flat in Indiana. Ohio wasn't too bad in my, but I'm already growing to love the hills. We went to on vacation to Florida, and I was kind of missing the hills because it's flat there too. So glad to be back.
Well, good. Yeah. I know your wife has been into several places. Tell me about some of your experiences and some of the different places that you've been.
Yeah, well, I was born in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, so that's right on the border of Canada. So I'm told I have some Canadian accents. I don't know if that's true or not, but I lived there. So then actually we lived in Illinois, just in the corner of Illinois, right close to Wisconsin and Iowa. Lived there for about 7 years. And then been in Ohio, well, for 20 years, about 20 years or so, you know, with different times, you know, going away for school and coming back, different things. So But now, not too far from here, it's about 2.5 hours where I spent those time in Ohio. So now to be in West Virginia is pretty neat. So
Yeah, well, we love West Virginia, as the state motto is, it's almost heaven, and we really feel that way here. Or at least I do. We've got a lot of people in the congregation that live in Ohio and a lot of people in West Virginia. I'm just partial to West Virginia. It's where I've been born and raised all my life. So, talking about some of your calling, then you said, part of the calling that you had was took you into some of the places. Tell me about some of the calling that you had in order to bring you into ministry.
Yeah. Well, we moved around, lived in Michigan and then Illinois and Ohio. And the reason was my dad actually is a pastor. He's been in ministry for over 30 years. It's a fantastic example. I tell people a lot of my best ideas are stolen from him. So, and that really is true. So it's good to kind of take. And I had a professor at seminary. He said, "There's nothing new under the sun, so be a good thief." And so try to take ideas and different things and rework. And doing the hard work myself, but people have gone before us at example. But my dad being a pastor, been a lot around church and different things a lot growing up. And I really want to do whatever God wanted me to do. And so when I felt called into ministry in my teens, I actually fought it. I was like, no, people are going to think, oh, his dad's a pastor, he's going to be a pastor, and didn't want to do that number. But that calling was really neat because God was faithful in calling, but not just calling, but even providing in that ministry. In the first years of ministry, in any ministry, there's not really a lot of finances. So God providing ways with education, was able to do community college for 2 years at the end of high school, fully paid for, even getting different scholarships, doing ministry. God has just been so faithful to lead each step of the way and provide each step of the way, we've been really, really blessed to follow God in this kind of roller coaster, my wife will say sometimes, that we're on. So.
Well, I'm sure it is. As life gets very hectic, right? And especially as you're following God, right, and doing His will, He's going to lead you down those paths that you don't know anything about.
Yeah.
As long as you're willing to take the step, He's going to lead you there. So it's always good to be able to trust Him and follow His calling.
Yeah.
But I hear that part of that calling, part of your experiences, also led you to one of our lesser known states a little farther north.
Yep.
Tell me about Alaska.
We have a missionary that we had supported, and that my dad's church still supports. He is a missionary doing radio ministry in Alaska, and there is such a need in Alaska. If you don't know, Alaska being so far north, the summers are daylight. When I was up there in the summer. I was a coward. I went in the warm months. I wasn't really into the cold and the snow and the darkness. But it was about 20 hours of light in the summer when I was there. So it was like 11 o'clock at night, and people are out there mowing their lawns, and it's just like it can throw you off if you're not careful.
Wait. That's something I don't think about when you say Alaska. People mowing their lawns. I'm sure it happens.
Yeah.
It's just that you threw me off
They
there.
do. In summer, it's not that different. Like I was up there and it was 80 degrees. You're thinking, this is Alaska? It was really nice.
Yeah.
It's not always that warm, but it's just all the daylight. But in winter, you of course get the exact opposite, where you see the sun for like 2 hours, 3 hours of the day, depending where you're at. And it's amazing the need that it creates because the suicide rate is a lot higher in Alaska. People into drugs and alcohol is very high, especially with the native population that's there. They get a lot of funding and things, and so they just struggle with it. And so a lot of difficulties and really a need. It's the land of the midnight sun, but there's a great spiritual darkness there. There's a need. And so the radio station was a neat ministry where, it's hard to get into a lot of places in Alaska. I mean, it's a massive state. If you put it over the United States, I mean, it's over half of the lower 48. It's massive. But radio is a way they can kind of broadcast out the word of God. And they put little transmitters all around the state to kind of boost their signal. And I was working with a gentleman, and he was completely blind. So I would walk into the radio station, and if the doors were locked, the lights would be off, but he might be in there. And so you never knew. But he worked the whole radio station being blind. And so I went up there I think my second year in seminary, maybe my first year. And part of the heart was to be a help to the missionaries. But part of it, too, was to kind of figure out, from a missionary standpoint, how is the relationship with the church and how do they view it? Because I've been on the church end where you're trying to reach out to a missionary and see, but it's just to kind of hear from them, well, what type of things is helpful for them, what things really isn't that helpful, And I was kind of surprised by some of the things he said. That doesn't really help us a whole lot. People coming up for 2 days is kind of more of a burden than it is help. Those different things. But a really neat opportunity. Went up there for a couple months. It was the summer before Jennifer and I met. Well, after. So Jennifer wasn't happy being long distance during that time, but we Skyped and it was okay. Just 4-hour time difference. So, but,
Well, very good. So, Alaska is one of those states that I always thought that would be really neat to visit, and experience. The cruises and everything that go up there, I think that would be very cool. But, I think more than getting off the boat and getting into the geography a little bit, I think would be really cool to see some of the wilderness there.
We did Denali National Park is a big one there, and it was pretty impressive. Seeing some different things. And
but it's beautiful up there.
Very beautiful, very wild, even more wild than West Virginia.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about trees and open areas. It was quite impressive. So, but
very good.
It's a neat opportunity.
So, what other kind of things have you experienced in West Virginia? I know you got a cabin here, and you've spent a lot of time as family trips here. Tell us a little bit about where your cabin's at.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Parkersburg is somewhat familiar to me. For about 20 years, I've driven through Parkersburg. We have a cabin that we had bought. My family did kind of one part as an investment, one part as a vacation, getaway, but also it's used for ministry. And so just outside of Elizabeth, about 15-20 minutes towards Creston, is our family cabin that we have. And we built a couple of cabins on there. We've taken ministry retreats. We've taken groups from Cedarville, from Liberty University. Word of Life has come down every year for the last 6 or 7 years. We've taken teens, joined with a couple of churches and take teens down there and done ministry. So, but I've driven through Parkersburg because before the bridge was built, you had to go through downtown Parkersburg.
Exactly.
And so it's really the weirdest thing when I'm going down Parkersburg to get to places and I've been here before. It's like, why is this? I'm like, oh, this makes sense. So the weirdest thing in the world, but I'm loving the area, even the outdoors. Being there, it really is nice, and kind of an outdoorsman myself, and enjoy hunting a little bit. With kids, it's just a little harder to get away. You have a couple hours. It's always something to do, but squirrel hunting, rabbit hunting, deer hunting, and enjoy those type of things. Enjoy nature. It really is. Technology has its benefits, but it has its drawbacks. You're stuck on a screen. You're not outside really enjoying life, and it really is beautiful down here. So yeah, it's great. I love. I'm really hoping and praying being closer because we're only about 45 minutes from Bethel is those cabins. I really hope God will open that door for us to take, some men retreats, women retreats, teens. It's really there to be used. And it's not the most rustic. There's no running water, but there is a generator. So we have power, we have lights, we have fans. Some of the rooms have AC units in the windows, but it really is good just to get away and unplug for a little bit. And it's a nice place to go. So.
Absolutely, just being out in the wilderness, like you said. I enjoy hunting as well. I'm not an avid hunter like a lot of people, but I do enjoy hunting. But to me, it's more about spending time out in the wilderness by yourself and wilderness, out into the woods, just sitting and listening. When you're deer hunting, it's a lot about sitting and listening. And there's so much you can hear just by sitting and listening.
Yeah.
So
it's funny when we go with the teen retreats that we've taken. The first night, we kind of have more city kids who aren't outside. So like the first day, they're staying up till 1 a.m. just running around. Well, they're not used to all the fresh air. So by the second or third night, it's like 8 o'clock at night, and they're all just like collapsed, falling asleep. And I'm like, guys, come on, let's do something. They're just done. But it's good for them because it's for them at least. It was so different to get away, and we take the cell phones away so they kind of get unplugged a little bit, and we force them to go off and just spend a half hour alone with God. Like, half an hour? What do we? You'll survive. You'll be fine. And we give them a book there or something, a Bible to read different things, but some really cool times with God in that. Just to be, that's that one psalm: "Be still and know that He's God." To be able to stop, it's a good forced stop.
Yes.
You kind of get cell coverage up there if you need to, but we're out far enough. It really is nice. So
cool. So you've had a lot of good experiences already in West Virginia. I
Mhm.
hope that you have lots more. I understand that you've had not so good experience in West Virginia with your car accident.
Yeah, it was. It, um, it was about, what year was it? Well, I was finishing up school. Jennifer and I just had met, so I guess it would have been 2010. I lived living in Ohio, went to school at Liberty University, which would have been in Virginia, and so I had to drive through West Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
I-64 through the whole way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one of the times on the way back, nearly about 7 o'clock at night, the roads weren't bad, it just started to get dark, and driving, not many people on the road, car maybe every mile, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and um, had gotten in a car accident, and they were coming down a steep mountain, and I was kind of going up, and they fell asleep at the wheel. And you would think you would have time to see someone coming and notice, but when you're going 70 miles an hour down a hill, that 30 feet of grass in between you get across that in a hurry.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing just a split second of light, and suddenly, I mean, my car was spinning. I was smelling smoke and just wondering what in the world. I remember after the car accident, immediately that my first instinct was just get out of the road, get out of the road, get out of the road. And so, I grabbed a water bottle. I don't know why. I had a water bottle in my car. I was like, I'm going to need a drink. I don't know why I was thinking that, but grabbed a water bottle and got it down to the ditch and just kind of sat so I wasn't, because my car was still in the middle of the road. And, in that time, the first person to pull up to us, because it wasn't heavy traffic. It was about a car every mile. It was a light time. First person to pull up was actually an undercover or an off-duty police officer. And so he took over the scene because, in a very tragic way, the two people who had fallen asleep, they weren't wearing seatbelts.
Oh.
And so they didn't make it. And it's very sobering. Three people involved in a car accident, and only one person walks away, and that's you. It's emotional, even though you can rationalize, hey, it wasn't your fault. They weren't wearing seatbelts. They were the ones who fall asleep. You still struggle with that sometimes. And they hit the front part of my car as I was going up, hit the front of it. And to think, when you're going 67 miles an hour, you're talking a tenth of a second, and you're 6 feet farther down the road, where rather than hitting the front of your car, it's hitting driver's side, and you're done. That's it.
Sure.
And it was interesting in a neat God sight in that. When we went to the hospital, they were running all the tests and things. And at first, it's amazing. Adrenaline's an amazing thing. If you've never been in a situation like that. And afterwards, they're saying, you have to get in the ambulance. And I felt fine. I was like, I don't have to get in the ambulance. What are you talking about? Well, I had a couple of broken fingers and gashes. And I had problems that messed me up for a little bit. But when I went to the hospital, they were running all the tests, and someone from the cleanup crew who cleaned up the crash sites, he came to the hospital to find me, which, he had to go out of his way. We were 10, 15 miles from wherever, and he found me, and he had brought me my Bible.
Wow.
And he said, I want you to know I was the one who cleaned out your car. And the whole thing was just a wreck, I had suitcases down, and it was all over. He said, but your Bible was in the back seat, and the armrest was pulled down. That Bible was just sitting there, completely undisturbed. And he said, I don't know what God you pray or whatever it says, but he's watching out for you. And it was neat because in that moment it was, I was close to death, but I was as close as God wanted me to be. And it was just, okay, Lord, and, okay, you have something in store, and I'm yours, and do with it you wish. And the humorous part of it is Jennifer didn't know what we were dating at the time, and she didn't know what hospital I was in. I wasn't on my cell phone. Don't be on your cell phone when you're driving. My cell phone was in the seat next to me, and so in the car accident, it flew off, and it was destroyed, so I didn't know where to contact anyone. And so she started to call all the hospitals close to the route that should be, and the first one was Beckley General Hospital.
Okay.
And it was a hospital that she was born in. And so she finally gets a hold of, and they got a chance, and I said, oh, you're born here? I said, yeah, they have your baby picture up on the wall. And she's just trying not to lose a sense of humor in the midst of all of it. But, God was good in that. And, I pray he uses that for good in that. And it is difficult. And your heart goes out to the family and things. And I'm the biggest proponent of seatbelts. It was obviously God was the one who saved me, but wearing a seatbelt was a big difference. So I tell all the teens who I've worked with in the past, you will wear your seatbelt. That's the difference of being here and not, and it's not worth it. But yeah, God was really good in that hard time. So.
Yeah, it's that's interesting. It's very few people can really understand what you've been through or what you still go through, surviving something like that. I'm one of those people because I've been in a similar situation. So to hear you say you're as close to death as God wants you to be without taking you there, that's certainly a different perspective.
Yeah.
And it helps because you don't always understand why the situation happened.
Yeah.
And the way I've always rationalized it or helped myself understand is I don't need to understand now. Maybe someday I will.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's those things are very hard.
Yeah.
They really are.
There's an old saying I've come back to a couple times, even talking with people of when you can't trace God's hand, trust His heart.
Yeah.
And there's a purpose and there's a plan. And because you think back to it, I mean, there really was the odds of them colliding with anybody was just so low. I mean, there was nobody on the road and thinking why and all these things. And again, there's a plan and a purpose. And God didn't cause the accident, but He doesn't waste pain we found in life. And but God's good. God's good.
Yes, He is. So, amen. Yeah. 4 kids?
4 kids currently.
Kids.
4
Holy
kids.
Cow.
The wife initially wanted 8 kids, but we all have 4 kids. She's told me recently that she doesn't want Lydia, who's my youngest girl. I have 3 boys and a girl. She told me that she doesn't want Lydia to be the youngest, so we have to have another one. I kind of explained this is a very destructive mindset because one of them has to be the youngest. So I don't know. We might have 1 or 2 more down the road here. We'll see what God blesses us with. But each one is a blessing and a trial all at the same time. And if you're a parent, you understand.
Absolutely. Yep.
So
and help me. Their names are
Isaac is the oldest.
Okay.
So he's my 6-year-old. So he was on the video on Sunday. He was doing the cut action. He loved it. Daniel was kind of the goofy one. He's my 4-year-old. And then I have Andrew, who's the 3-year-old, and then Lydia, who will be 2 in May. So 4 kids, and they're all pretty close. So.
Wow. Yeah.
Bless my wife's heart. So
Yeah. I got 3 kids. Well, three kids.
It's all right.
I got 3 kids and 2 years apart. So
Okay, yeah.
But my brother, I've got an older sister and a younger brother. Each one of us is just a little over a year apart. So
Okay.
kind of grew
Very
up in
close.
a little bit of
Yeah.
that situation.
I told my
but,
wife is that I really don't care how many kids we have, which I might regret now, but I want them close so that way, once I'm out of the diaper stage, I'd like to stay out of the diaper stage because I've had good friends, they'll have their kids and they will they'll have them all empty nesters and they'll go back and have 2 more, and that's great for them. I know people do that. I have friends who do that. That's great, but I don't really want to do that. I guess I'm like, let's just have them all together. Even though it's harder, we'll get through that stage and it'll be all right. But we'll see. We only have 2 in diapers right now, and they're almost out. So
Very good.
We'll see how it is.
Very good. They enjoying the house. They enjoying
they love
the space.
They love it. We are so blessed. It was just a neat God sighting. We are 100% confident this is where God wants us to be as a church. But we weren't expecting that God would have a house picked out for us. But it was the Watkins family is where the family kind of owned it on their family farm, and it's just kind of a neat way where the house wasn't on the market, but we knew it had been at one point, and so we contacted them. And so we had to meet the owner, who actually the one who was there was. Pastor Mark Watkins, who's just down the road. So got a chance to meet with them, and his church actually started in that house, and so it's really nice and big. I know to host a lot of people, which is what our hearts is. So I tried the housewarming thing, and apparently that was a big failure. But no, it's fantastic. We're trying to remodel the basement so we can send the kids downstairs. We have things, but no, it's gorgeous. It's more than we could have hoped for, and God made it very clear this is where, and it's close to the church. So the commute and having people out, it's really worked. So really blessed beyond what we deserve. So very pleased.
Very good.
So.
And it came with its own sheep. So
It
not
did.
only are you a shepherd here at Bethel, you are a shepherd at home.
I am.
With your family and with your animals.
Yeah, I don't know. My wife is very much attached to these sheep. I don't know what
Good.
we're going to do with them. So 2 of them, they say are pregnant. They don't really look that pregnant, but they promise they are. So we were supposed to be having a couple lambs here in the near future. So I might need your help. I hear you know about goats and things like that. So they're supposed to just kind of have them by themselves we'll see. Is that easy? Things never seem to be that easy, so I don't know.
Things are never quite that easy. Sometimes
Yeah.
they do. If they're really healthy and they're doing well, that they shouldn't have any problem. But sometimes they need help, just like
Yeah.
the rest of us, right?
Absolutely so. But no, we have 4 sheep. They're called Jacob sheep, and they're like I don't know if they. I think there's a biblical reference because these are a very old breed of sheep. They've been around for a long time, but the kids love them. Absolutely love them. They feed them graham crackers, is their little treat they get and everything. So I threatened that we're just going to eat them one day, but my whole family would have a mutiny. They're not okay with that. So if you have any good lamb recipes, send them to me and I'll send them to my wife.
Yeah. Use those as leverage, right?
Yeah, no, they're pets and they're probably around to stay. So, oh well. But I was trying to last week. We were trying to get them. The grass is growing, and since we moved, I was trying to avoid having to mow my lawn for a little longer. So I was like, if we had the sheep out, we have most of the yards fenced in, and we put some decorative fence up front. I said, I bet those sheep would eat the grass because they eat it. They eat it down clean. And so we opened it up and we let them out just in the yard for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
No problem. And they were hanging around. Like, we keep an eye on them. And Isaac comes around. The sheep are in the road. So that ended that. So I'm gonna have to go out and get a lawnmower and do it the old-fashioned way. So I had this dream of they're just to mow the whole thing. It'll be great, and they won't even poop anywhere, and it'll be good. Yeah, no, not that much. I grew up on a farm, so I should have known better. But oh well. So
I've always never raised sheep, but I've been around raising goats all my life. And the one thing I've learned about goats is they don't necessarily stay in the fence that you want them to stay in.
Yeah.
And they are really, really good about getting out of that fence. And I imagine sheep are very similar to that.
Oh, and they're ungrateful. I was building them their shelter. They had a shelter. It was falling to pieces, and so I knew how to get out there. The wind had done some damage, and so I had worked for an hour or 2 hours, got it all beautiful, was almost done. Just kind of taking some supplies off. That door stayed this far open, and boom. Those ungrateful wretches, they just zipped out and they didn't want anything to do with this. So, anyways, but I found a good principle. You don't herd sheep, you lead sheep. Because my boys and I were trying to herd them all in and do it, and I realized, wait a minute, this isn't the way. So I said, go get some food. She got food, shook the food, they came running right in. And all right, we're the same thing. They got on the road, get the food, and they came running right in for it. So
food is a great motivator.
Oh,
I know it is for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's how my wife kind of caught me with food. I've mentioned to a couple people before. She made brownies for my dorm when we were at school, and they were good. And I can't cook. I'm terrible at cooking. I can do boxed macaroni and spaghetti and scrambled eggs, and that's like the extent. I've ruined instant mashed potatoes. Ruined them terribly. So I knew when I got married, I would need someone who could cook or enjoyed cooking. Otherwise, it would be frozen foods the rest of our life. So anyways, my wife is a good cook and she takes care of that. And so that caught my eye the first time. Like, I don't get to know this person. And a lot of depth to my wife, so I'm pretty lucky.
We look forward to getting to know you and her in much deeper ways.
Well, that was funny. On Sunday, she was one of the 3 singers up here. And a couple of people were looking, and I've heard from others, they were saying, who is that young girl up there? Who's the other one? I don't know. that was my wife. So she has a lovely voice, and she agreed to sing. Well, I really didn't give her an option. I said, we need a singer. We can't have many other people come in because of the virus. I'm already here. So she was gracious and came and sang. So that was my wife on Sunday singing for us. So
she did a great job. Everybody that helped with that service Sunday did a great job.
Yeah, we really had blessed. Having done a lot of things at the last church, I was the associate pastor. And you end up doing a lot of other things outside. And so I had to do a lot with the tech and with the music and just a lot of other things around the church. And so to know what it takes to pull things off, we are blessed with our tech guys. You, Grant, Cody, the people come out to do music. What a blessing to be able to do even something like this, where we can sit down and have the conversation. It's not easy for most people, and churches right now are trying to struggle to figure out things, but we are blessed to have a lot of great people who have hearts to serve, and really appreciate that about Bethel. So,
okay, we need to wrap up just real quick.
All right.
One more question for you.
All right,
You've been here for about 3 weeks with us. So tell me, what is your one favorite thing about Parkersburg so far?
Oh, thing about Parkersburg so far. Well, it is, I think, just sitting out on my porch and kind of beautiful landscape and just keeping track of the vehicles that pass in front of me. More four-wheelers pass in front of my house than cars. And so my wife said, this is a great place. I like this. ATVs of all sorts are coming, dirt bikes, all this. And it's about a 2-to-1 ratio the other day. And I said, this is a good place to be. So in Ohio, we were in the country, but it really wasn't the country. So we're out here. I enjoy the outdoors, the clean air. It really is beautiful, and we love it. So
Well,
yeah.
good.
So,
Good. We certainly love it, and we love having you all with us.
well, good. It'd be great to get everyone back here, Lord willing, soon, and get to know everyone. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely. It will be good to have everybody back in church and fellowshipping face to face.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up here tonight, one of the questions we want to ask is, what is one thing God has taught you through your life? We'd love to hear from you and hope to hear from you. And Pastor Aaron, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Darren. Appreciate it.